our country punish Robeson? Punish Robeson, punish Robeson. Why did our country punish Robeson? He was an amazing man.
So I just want to say a few things about this show. It's about the life of Paul Robeson. How many people remember who Paul Robeson was? All right. You are the best possible audience that we can have. So, on with the show? Yes? Are we ready? Yes. Ready?
What a boy, where are you hiding? Now if you don't come, I'm gonna tell your daddy. There ain't no hammer that's on this rock, boy, that rings like mine, boy, that rings like mine. I done bust this rock, boy, from here to Macon, all the way to the jail, boy. Yes, back to the jail.
From here to Macon, all the way to jail.
You jack of diamonds, yeah, you jack of diamonds. Well, I know you are old, boy. Yes, I know you are old. You robbed my pocket. Yeah, you robbed my pocket. You done robbed my pocket. All the silver and gold.
My pocket, all my silver and all my gold.
What a boy, where are you hiding? Now if you don't come, I'm gonna tell your daddy.
In 1949, in August, Paul Robeson sang a concert in Peekskill, New York. I lived right near there, in a little summer colony called Golden's Bridge. And a lot of the people went to that concert. But at the end of the day, there was a commotion out on the road. And I went out to look. I was little. And all the windows were broken, and all the buses and cars. And the people were crying and bleeding. And it's an image that stays with me, that stayed with me all of my life. That's how powerful Paul Robeson was. That thugs thought they could get their way by throwing rocks at people and insulting them. Today, we're going to present a portrait of Paul Robeson. And he was a multi-talented man and a great American. Our portrait is based on research that was done for a master's thesis by Alex Bagwell. Raise your hand up. He's going to talk to you right now.
Talk right in.
I met Robeson one day, shook his huge hand, and I was only 21. So I was somewhat intimidated. This was in a studio where my teacher was to accompany him when they were rehearsing for the next day. So he leaned up against the piano and wanted to talk. I was intimidated, so I couldn't say anything. He was huge, but he was very kind, so humble. And I leaned back up against the piano, and he told me, he said, you know, we musicians have to warm up before we perform. It's about that time my teacher came in and they started their rehearsing, but that was something I'll never forget.
Did my Lord deliver Daniel? Deliver Daniel. Deliver Daniel. Did my Lord deliver Daniel? And why not every man? He delivered Daniel from the lion's den, Jonah from the belly of the whale, and the Hebrew children from the fiery furnace. And why not every man? Did my Lord deliver Daniel? Deliver Daniel. Deliver Daniel. Did my Lord deliver Daniel? And why not every man? But why did our country punish Robeson? Punish Robeson. Punish Robeson. Why did our country punish Robeson? He was an amazing man.
I took my message around the world, singing all the songs of liberty. I wanted to set all people free.
Why did our country punish Robeson? Punish Robeson. Punish Robeson. Why did our country punish Robeson? He was an amazing man.
Maids in Jamaica, miners in Wales, working people in every land. When he reached out, they took his hand. He was a powerful man.
Why did our country punish Robeson? Punish Robeson. Punish Robeson. Why did our country punish Robeson? He was an amazing man. In 1946, he swore an oath he'd never been a communist. Like listed still, he raised his fist. He was a truthful man. Why did our country punish Robeson? Punish Robeson. Punish Robeson. Why did our country punish Robeson? He was an amazing man.
The boycott, the blacklist, the passport revoked. It was a curse he had to bear. Robeson had so much to share, such a gifted man.
Why did our country punish Robeson? Punish Robeson. Punish Robeson. Why did our country punish Robeson? He was an amazing man.
Paul Robeson was born in 1898 in New Jersey. He became known as a singer of folk songs of all the world's people, but especially of black people. His father expected nothing less of him. J. Clinton Hoggart was a childhood friend.
In 1910, Paul Robeson moved to Somerville, New Jersey, along with his father, Pastor Robeson. His father had just been appointed to the St. Thomas AME, African American Episcopal Church in Somerville, New Jersey.
Paul's father had escaped from slavery in North Carolina to New Jersey. He graduated from Lincoln University, where he learned Latin and Greek. He taught Paul those subjects at a young age. He also passed on his love for oratory. According to his friend J. Clinton Harvard,
who would have thought Paul Robeson developed his love for singing in the church choir? Can you appreciate that? He developed it. He was already developed. But nevertheless, he also preached from time to time in his father's church. The congregation appreciated him, and of course, Paul enjoyed the preaching, especially during the decline of his father's health. He preached more and more through the African American Episcopal Church.
Didn't it rain, children? God's gonna destroy this world with water. Didn't it rain, my Lord? Didn't it rain, rain, rain?
Well, it rained 40 days and it rained 40 nights. There wasn't no land nowhere in sight. God sent a raven to carry the news. He hyced his wings and away he flew.
Didn't it rain, children? God's gonna destroy this world with water. Didn't it rain, my Lord? Didn't it rain, rain, rain?
Well, it rained 40 days, 40 nights without stopping. Noah was glad when the rain stopped a dropping. God sent Noah a rainbow sign, said no more water but the fire next time.
Didn't it rain, children? God's gonna destroy this world with water. Didn't it rain, my Lord? Didn't it rain, rain, rain?
Robeson won an oratory contest that led to a scholarship to Rutgers, where he studied to be a minister. After 2 years, he switched to law. Paul was an excellent scholar and orator at Rutgers. He was inducted into the Phi Beta Kappa scholastic fraternity and maintained among the highest grade point averages in the university. Paul was on his college debating team, but he didn't sing. Even though he'd sung every Sunday at his father's church, he wasn't allowed to join the university glee club.
That's amazing!
Robeson did play football. At his first football practice in Rutgers, he was attacked by his teammates. His ribs and collarbone were broken. They also broke his nose. After that, he couldn't whistle. The story goes that he decided to quit. His father had recently passed, but his brother told him,
Dad would not have approved of you quitting.
while he was healing, he made up his mind that from that point on, he was going to confront racist attacks head on. When he got back after healing up on the first play, he picked up the ball carrier over his head and was about to smash him to the ground when the coach yelled, "Roby, you're on the team." So he let the guy down easy.
Paul and Silas bound in jail had no money for to go their bail. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Paul and Silas began to shout.
All-American defensive end 2 years in a row. Sports reporter Walter Camp said,
Roby was the greatest football player I've ever seen.
Lloyd Brown, Robeson's best friend, commented,
Once, Rutgers beat Fordham 28-0. The score should have read Robeson 28, Fordham nothing. On different plays, Robeson performed every position on the football team.
We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. Sisters, brothers, all. Every round goes higher, higher. Every round goes higher, higher. Every round goes higher, higher. Sisters, brothers,
After Rutgers, Paul went to law school at Columbia. There he met and married science student named Eslanda Cordoza Good, a descendant of a Reconstruction senator. They married before graduation. Paul was hired after graduation as a lawyer in a Wall Street firm, but a white secretary refused to take dictation from him. Well, he had to quit. His wife, Essie,
I encouraged him to pursue his acting as a career.
the actress, Frances Williams, was a good friend of Paul.
I first met Paul in the 1920s in Cleveland, Ohio. That was where we had one of the oldest black theater groups. Later, in Greenwich Village, New York, Paul was appearing in All God's Children's Got Wings and The Emperor Jones. In The Emperor Jones, I was referred to as a black cow. Can you believe Paul playing in such a play? Well, he more than made up for it later. But Catherine Dunham and I were so disappointed when we saw him in Sanders of the River in London. It was such a demeaning part. We tried to get Walter White of the NAACP to get him not to play the part. We also appealed to his wife Islanda, but she said,
No, I want him to do this. We're making good money, and when you've got money, you've got power.
By 1937, Paul had become disillusioned with commercial theater and also with Hollywood. In the editing process, they made some of his parts conform to the racist stereotypes of the time. According to Henry Noyes, the English friend,
Robeson said that he would never be in that type of play again. He felt deeply insulted.
Ain't you gonna ride? 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 Ain't you gonna ride to the tree of life? Gonna ride to stop the war. Ain't you gonna ride? Gonna ride to stop the war. Ain't you gonna ride? Ain't you gonna ride? Ain't you gonna ride to the
height of the Great Migration. Thousands of black folks were moving out of the Jim Crow South, heading for cities in the North and West. Robeson moved to London. He said,
I felt the pressures so much. I just went on to Europe where the pressures weren't nearly as great.
Robeson worked to build the Unity Theatre in London. He was one of the best influences in my life. He had humanity and ability.
At London University, he came to know African students who later became leaders in the freedom struggles against colonialism in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Men such as Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya and Nandi Azikiwe, who later became Prime Minister of the Eastern region of Nigeria. He came to feel that he was African. He totally identified with these people, and so he came to speak as one of them.
Freedom is coming, freedom is coming, freedom is coming, oh yes I know. Freedom is coming, freedom is coming, freedom is coming, oh yes I know. Freedom is coming, freedom is coming, freedom is coming, oh yes I know.
In 1930, Essie published a biography of her husband titled Paul Robeson, Negro. He didn't like it. In fact, they broke up for a time. W.E.B. Du Bois wrote,
I suggest that everyone should buy and read the biography of Paul Robeson written by his wife. His life is fascinating. It was well written. The only criticism is voiced in the 10th chapter itself. Paul Robeson is pictured saying, she thinks I'm a little tin angel. And so, of course, the book is stupid, uninteresting, and untrue.
Pearl S. Buck, the novelist, had a series of discussions with Essie.
What I wanted to understand through Mrs. Robeson was how a person who was the wife of a wealthy and successful figure could yet feel anger against her country. Through our talks, I came to understand, for Mrs. Robeson once said to me,
It doesn't matter who I am elsewhere in the world, when I go to Mississippi, I am just a black nigger.
Francis Williams told this anecdote about Essie.
When she came back from England, she had an experience in the marketplace. A white woman came in and said,
Excuse me, you don't mind if I go first? Do you mind if I go first? I just have a few things.
Essie was just about to say, go ahead, when a small black woman said, no. You must think this is last year. This is this year. You can go to the back of the line. Essie just loved telling that story. You could see how much she had grown.
Famous around the world for his concerts, but he insisted that his career as a singer began almost accidentally. In Emperor Jones, his character had to whistle, but he couldn't whistle because his nose had been broken when he was attacked on the football field at Rutgers. So he sang an African folk song. His singing career began there. At first he sang only Negro spirituals.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Alone ways from home, alone ways from home. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Lord, sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel feel like I'm almost gone. A long ways from home. A long way from home. Oftentimes when we are in activist activities, we call home and mommy say, "How you doing, son?" "I'm doing all right, mama." But the spirit of mama knows what's happening. And when she hangs up the phone, she said, "On my knees I pray, Lord. On my knees I pray, Lord. A long ways from home. A long ways from home. Sometimes, Lord, I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Lord, it's a long way from home. Go call my brother.
In the beginning, Robeson insisted that he wouldn't sing music he didn't understand. But then he decided, as he said, to learn every language in the world so he could communicate with everyone in their own language. As part of that commitment, he began to sing to everyone in their own language. He recorded songs from around the world. He once told Francis Williams,
"I think you should learn all the languages you can. It will enrich your life."
It obviously enriched his life. He became convinced that all the world's folk songs came from a common source. To illustrate that idea, Lawrence Brown, his longtime accompanist and an expert in the sources of the Negro spiritual, developed what he called patterns of folk song.
I'm about to do one that comes from the great tradition, which is the tradition of the black preacher. My father was a preacher, and when he felt very happy, he'd start what you call moving about, rhythmic motion. From this has grown much of the art that we listen to in any phase of our daily black American lives. I don't know, a preacher might have said, "Holy Spirit say, I want you to go down and easy, bring my servant home." Holy Spirit say, I want you to go down and easy and bring my servant home. Go down, preach my glory in the mighty name. I want you to go down, and bring my servant home. Holy Spirit say, I want you. And it goes into a great chant. From the singing speech of the black preacher then, it becomes a great chant. And in searching for this and following this back, we went back in Africa, East Africa, and found some of these same forms that were in the African religious festival. Je pala pala patayi, je pala patayi, je pala pala patayi, je pala patayi, zungum zungum wachine, zungum zungum wachine, je pala pala patayi, smarty boats globe, vive do český děny, smarty boats globe, vive do český děny, je pala pala patayi. One comes from between the 13th and 15th centuries of the Czech plain chant, which preceded the Lutheran chorale and was a part of the whole Gregorian chant. Why was this so? The Abyssinian Church and the Church of the Sudan were a part of the Eastern churches of Byzantium. So they had music quite comparable to the music of the Near East and to the music of the next one I shall do, one Hasidic chant of Rabbi Levi Isaac of Berditchev. Good day, dear Lord God Almighty. I, Levi Isaac, son of Sarah, from Berditchev. Here am I before thee, with a great and earnest plea for this thy people. What hast thou done to this thy people? Why hast thou so oppressed this thy people? Whoever suffers here against the sons of the oppressed, wherever sorrow here against the sons of the oppressed, whatever betide, there is spies against the sons of the oppressed. On this earth, how many nations? The Romans, the Persians, the Babylonians, the English, what boast they? Our kingdom is above all kingdoms. The Germans, what boast they? Our ruler is above all rulers. But I, Levi Isaac, son of Sarah, from Berditchev declare, Vishgarash, Vishgarash, Shemai Rabu. But I, Levi Isaac, son of Sarah, from Berditchev declare, I will not move from my place. From this place I will not move. And an end let there be to all this sorrowing and suffering. Vishgarash, Vishgarash, Shema.
Civil War, Robeson went to Spain to support the Loyalists who were fighting against Franco's fascists. He sang for the troops in the intervals between acting in the movies Jericho, Big Fella, and King Solomon's Mines. According to the black actor William Marshall,
my Aunt Thyra Edwards toured Spain with Robeson, raising money for ambulances for the Loyalists.
which was founded in 1949. He remembered the old days in the European enclave of Shanghai, where there would be signs at the entrance to the parks that said, "No dogs or Chinese allowed."
China is a newly emancipated country, young in strength and ancient in culture. It is a world power of 500 million people.
He appreciated China's long history and traditions of music, and he liked to point out that
the pentatonic scale on which Chinese music is based is a distinctive characteristic of African music, which is the ultimate source of all world music.
Robeson often performed the song Chilai, which in English means arise, although it's officially known as the March of the Volunteers. This song was adopted as the anthem of China in 1949. It was originally written in 1935 by Ni Er on the basis of a poem by Tian Han in honor of the volunteer armies that were opposing the Japan's invasion of Manchuria in the 1930s. Robeson recorded Chilai in 1941, in the years following the bombing of Pearl Harbor. It was played frequently on the radio here in the United States, in Britain, and in the Soviet Union.
Arise, you who refuse to be bond slaves, and stand up and fight for liberty and true democracy. All the world is facing the chains of oppression. Everyone who fights for freedom is now crying, arise, arise, arise. All of us with one heart, with the torch of freedom, march on, with the torch of freedom, march on, march on, march on and on. Kilai, we win so little men, but woman they shall, Jutes and woman in the chong chong. Junwa Ming Su Dalia, Su Western the Shehu, Megan the Treasure Fatu, Sweet Holy Ho Chan, Kilai, Kilai, Kilai. Woman want to weaken, Mao doing the power, Chin Jin, Mao doing the power, Chin Jin, Chin Jin, Chin Jin, Jin.
Traced the beginning of his political awareness to his participation in a benefit performance of All God's Children for Jewish Refugees in 1933. In terms of activism, he said,
Technically, I entered the fight for social justice for my people in a concert in St. Louis in 1947. I was singing at the Kiel Auditorium, and the NAACP asked me to come on a picket line because Negro people could not sit in the theater across the street. And I grabbed a banner and joined them.
Roosevelt Robeson's involvement with the labor movement better than Dr. Charles Wright.
It was June 29th, 1947. Robeson arrived at Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He came to support the fight against the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company by Local 22 of the Food, Tobacco, and Agricultural Union. Local 22 had been organized by a group of black women workers in the early 1940s. Close to 500 Camel cigarette workers were locked out of the Reynolds plant in violation of a 10-day strike agreement. Local 22 appealed to Robeson to come to the rescue. The concert opened with one of his old-time favorites, Water Boy, followed by work songs and Negro spirituals. At the end, he gave a dramatic presentation of the song written for him, Old Man River. The crowd loved it. After he sang, he spoke to the people.
If anyone here wants a reason for my singing here, I shall never forget my father, whose roots are here. I'm devoting 2 years or more to fighting for my race. Not as an artist, but as one of you. If that makes me the subversive they're talking about in Congress, if that makes me a red, then so be it.
There's an old man called the Mississippi. There's an old man I don't like to be. What does he care if the land's got troubles? What does he care if the land ain't free?
Don't look up and don't look down. You don't dare make the white boss frown.
Bend your knees, bow your head, and pull that rope until you're dead.
Let me go away from the Mississippi. Let me go away from the white man's boss.
Show me the stream called the River Jordan. That's the old stream that I long to cross. Old Man River, that old Man River, he must do something. He don't say nothing. It just keeps rolling. It keeps on rolling all along.
He don't plant taters, he don't plant cotton, and them that plant them are soon forgotten. But old Man River, he just keeps rolling along.
You and me, we sweat and strain, body all aching and racked with pain. Broke that barge and lift that bell.
Show a little grit and your line will I'll keep laughing instead of crying. We must keep fighting until we're fighting. Old Man River.
Robeson made a controversial speech at the World Peace Congress in Paris. He attended the Congress on behalf of a London organization representing Africans under English rule. The Associated Press quoted him as follows:
"We, the colonial peoples, have contributed to the building of the United States and are determined to share in its wealth. We denounce the policy of the United States government, which is similar to that of Hitler and Goebbels. We want peace and liberty, and will combat for them along with the Soviet Union, the democracies of Eastern Europe, China, and Indonesia. It is unthinkable that American Negroes could go to war on behalf of those who have oppressed us for generations against the Soviet Union, which in one generation has raised our people to full human dignity."
That speech marked a turning point in his life, as Dr. John Henry Clark has pointed out.
His Paris speech linked the struggles of Black America with those of Black Africa, Brown India, Yellow Asia, Brazil, Haiti, and the people of Mexico and South Africa. This made him dangerous.
Well, I met my sister the other day, gave her my right hand, just as soon as ever my back was turned, she scandalized my way. Do you call that a sister? No, no. Do you call that a sister? No, no. Do you call that a sister? No.
In August 1949, People's Songs Incorporated booked a concert for Robeson in Peekskill, New York. He had performed there without incident in each of the 3 preceding years, raising money for People's Songs and the Civil Rights Congress. But the Peekskill Evening Star ran a front-page article about plans for the concert, in which they stripped his comments of all context.
Robeson says American blacks will not fight against the Soviet Union, Russia.
On an inside page, the paper's editorial wrote,
"The time for tolerant silence is running out."
It was the era of the Red Scare, HUAC, McCarthyism. Howard Fast commented,
"American fascists did not want this man to elaborate upon those brief remarks in Paris. He had seen too much evidence to support his words. The case of the Trenton Six, of the Martinsville Seven, the case of Willie McGee, of Rosalie Ingram, and most clearly the case of the communists supported too well the arguments of Paul Robeson.
At Peekskill on August 27th. Lloyd Brown recalls.
A mob came. We had volunteers at that concert. I had a baseball bat. We were surrounding the area where Paul would sing. And these hoodlums were yelling, "Kill the nigger! Go back to Russia!" Paul sang. And of course, there was no trouble then. But when it was over, we had to leave down a narrow road. And these hoodlums lined that road. I was in a bus. They asked me to ride in a bus with mostly children, women and children from Harlem. And as we were about to go through, a shower of rocks, windows were shattered.
Wait, before we could even set foot on the bus, that's when they surrounded the bus and up on the knoll and gathered rocks and bottles and started calling us names.
Yes, windows were shattered. I yelled at everyone, down, down on the floor, down by your seat, everybody down.
A rock was thrown and it shattered the windshield and injured our driver. We took up a collection to give to our driver when we got back to 147th Street in Harlem.
Yes.
When Israel was in Egypt land, let my people go.
Let my people go. Go down Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people
My mother, Frances Golden, took me to Peekskill with her when I was almost 4 years old. This is a story she told me when we left the concert. She said to me, I was sitting in back of the driver, and people were lined up on each side of this narrow, winding road, and they were throwing rocks and bricks and bottles and breaking windows. And the troopers were sitting there, standing there, and they were cheering them on like, oh, that was a good one. Hey, another car is coming. Good, good. It was so frightening, she said. She said, Sally, I dropped some candy on the floor, and if you find it, you can have it. So, of course, you scramble down on the floor, which is where I wanted you to be safe and out of the way of the flying glass. And I dropped a little piece of candy, it was wrapped in paper, and I sort of pushed it a little bit with my foot under the chair there, and you looked for it, and then you found it, and you said, that was good, Mommy, do more. So I dropped another piece of candy, and I kept you down there, kept dropping candy so that you would stay down on the ground and look for candy. You had no idea what was going on because you were on the floor looking for candy. Meanwhile, the driver's window had been broken, and I was picking glass out of the driver's neck, and I was throwing it out the window because I didn't want to drop it down on the floor where you were crawling around. I do remember when we got down to Harlem, the people turned out, the whole community, with bandages and with water and with food and with support. They had heard how we had been attacked, and they were really wonderful to us. You came home in one piece, but you had had an awful lot of candy.
pictures from Peekskill shows an overturned car. Fred Hirsch.
That car right over there belonged to my wife, Jimmy. Fortunately, she and I had already gotten out the car. Robeson, of course, he was the target at Peekskill, the failed attempt to kill him.
Louise Patterson recalls.
Robeson and Lawrence Brown escaped harm by leaving quickly with a white couple in their car and spending the night with them at their house. We didn't see him till the next day at noon when he came to our house. After that, Paul came to my place in New York City on a lonely day by himself in the rain. And we sat down and talked. We decided to give it another try. But this time, if trouble came, we would be ready. We organized a massive defense force of 6 merchant seamen and 4 trade unionists surrounding Paul and Lawrence. And then everyone else would join elbows, lock arms around the entire meadow. And that's what we did. And that enabled us to have a wonderful concert, which included Pete Seeger and the pianist Leonard Hamro.
Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Glory, hallelujah.
Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down. Oh, yes, Lord. Sometimes I'm almost to the ground. Oh, yes, Lord. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Glory, hallelujah.
Peekskill killed Paul. Not just the Peekskill incident, but that whole period of the 40s and early 50s.
The weight of the establishment came down upon him. In 1949, his passport was taken away. As he was fighting to get it back, he made good use of his legal training at Columbia. In fact, his case was pivotal. It culminated in a Supreme Court ruling that all U.S. citizens have a right to travel at home or abroad without hindrance, even if their political opinions run contrary to the majority. But Robeson was barred from performing in the major concert halls of the country.
So, I gave concerts to raise money for progressive causes, such as the Southern Freedom Youth Congress and the NAACP. I picketed with black workers against Woolworth stores who weren't hiring black people. I also sang at meetings and rallies when trade unions were on strike for higher wages and better working conditions.
Many times, collections were taken up for him, but he always refused to accept any money.
He said he had saved a lot of dough from earlier concerts. The pressure from the authorities did not stop him from speaking out against racism and oppression at home and abroad.
The colored peoples, 2/3 of all mankind, are shouting that the walls of Jericho must come tumbling down.
Joshua hit the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Joshua hit the battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down.
You may talk about the man of Gideon, you may talk about the man of Saul, but there's none like good old Joshua in the battle of Jericho.
Joshua hit the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Joshua hit the battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down.
Up to the walls of Jericho, he marched with spear in hand. Go blow them ram horns, Joshua cried, 'cause the battle is in my hand. That morning,
Joshua hit the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Joshua hit the battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down.
Not content with suspending his passport, the United States government invoked an obscure law to prevent him from entering Canada. In response, in May 1952, he performed at the Peace Arch Park on the border by Vancouver. About 5,000 people attended on the US side and about 25,000 on the Canadian side. Harry Belafonte, an old and loyal friend, wrote in his memoir,
I arranged and paid for Robeson to broadcast across the United States-Canadian border. He spoke and sang there to the throngs of people. While we were there were many Europeans who were trying to get in without luck, trying to get a U.S. visa because they came from these so-called Iron Curtain countries.
Come go with me to that land. Come go with me to that land. Come go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come go with me to that land. Come go with me to that land. Come go with me to that land where I'm
Baptist Church. It was the day after I married. And again at Jones Methodist Church in San Francisco. At that concert, my mother played for him. She accompanied him on the piano.
In a speech to the Black Academy of Arts and Lectures in New York City on September 20th, 1970, Lena Horne said,
Thank you for that kind introduction. It's wonderful being here with you. Tonight we are honoring the third Black great hero of my life, Paul Robeson. I came to know him as a young woman alone, trying to find myself, trying to know why I related to the outside world as I did. Why my pride was so fierce and so bleak, and what had created this pride. He told me about my heritage, my grandmother, my forebears, about Black people everywhere. He told me about my Black self. He seemed to me to become the repository of information that dedicated my lifestyle.
In December of 1965, Essie died of cancer just before her 70th birthday. Paul was devastated. He spent his remaining years in the home of his sister Marilyn in Philadelphia, where he died on January 23rd, 1976. As we conclude, let us remember part of what Paul said when he was summoned before the House of Un-American Activities Committee in May of 1956.
My name is Paul Robeson, and anything I have to say or stand for, I have said in public all over the world. I am not being tried for whether I am a communist. I am being tried for fighting for the rights of my people, who are still second-class citizens in this United States of America. My people died to build this country, and I am going to stay here and share in it and have a part of it, just like you. And no fascist-minded people are going to drive me from it. Is that clear?
We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree standing by the water. We shall not be moved. The Union is behind us. We shall not be moved. The Union is behind us. We shall not
Amy Reynolds. Our director is Pat Wynn. Our incredible guitarist is Bernie Gilbert. And one more round of applause for Alex Bagwell.
Pat and Bernie for choosing to do this semester.
Yes.
Amen.
What a boy, where are you hiding? Now if you don't come, I'm gonna tell your daddy.